welcome to the Pigweed and Crowhill show.
Where we drink for your entertainment.
And education.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. What have we got going on here?
This style is Vienna Lager.
Vienna Lager, yes.
So it's a lager, but you know, most American lager drinkers think of lager and Pilsner.
Yeah.
As the same thing.
They think of lager as being light, and
yes.
they think of it as like a Czech Pilsner.
But as you can see, this one's got a nice caramel,
slightly coppery sort of a color to it.
Yes, yeah. Which is, you know, right down the middle of the style.
Right.
As we can see on the graphic, our grains.
Yeah.
It's a Vienna malt, which is different than your two-row. I mean,
it is different.
It's prepared differently. It's malted differently, a little higher temperature. I think it is. There's a certain Viennese German technique when they kiln that gives it a little bit more darkness and a little bit.
And it's got the dark Munich and the Cara Amber, so it's giving it that color and giving it that distinctive sort of a flavor. It's not all two-row. It's not all six-row. It's not the bland American malts. It's got some character going on there.
But yes, it's got some nice maltiness, low hop. Right, no discernible hop profile.
Yeah.
But you know, enough to balance it out. Sweet.
Very drinkable. A little bit of that malty sweetness.
Yes, yeah. A little bit of that malty sweetness because it uses that. In this case, it's got Saaz, which is a very low alpha.
Right.
IBU, so you know it's not
going to hit you in the head, right?
5.2. Look, so you know, we've done beers up to 90 IBUs.
Yeah.
And this gentle fella is at
18. Yeah, my nephew, when I go out for a beer with my nephew, this is his go-to beer.
Right, and he's 6 years old.
Don't tell anybody.
Okay. But no, it is very nice. So this is this is Devil's Backbone from Virginia, down in the Shenandoah Valley, next to, you know, I believe it's part of the Appalachian Trail. That the mountain ridge is called Devil's Backbone.
Okay.
If you're hiking it.
All right.
So that's where that comes from.
All right.
I was surprised to find that Boston Lager is considered a Vienna Lager.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't thought about that.
But when I think about it, you know, it's kind of like that, right? Kind of looks like that. It's got some maltiness to it.
Yeah, similar kind of a character to it. So when I think of Vienna...
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Vienna Lager. I mean, you hear it, you're like, oh, what does that conjure up for you?
Exactly. So Vienna Lager conjures up, well, the first thing it conjures up is my nephew. Drink because he likes this particular beer. But the second thing it conjures up to me is Vienna, Austria. And you know, James Bond sitting in the back of a horse-drawn carriage with some hot chick and going around through the snow in Vienna. That's
like
that's what I'm
the
thinking.
Alps.
Yeah, the Alps
in the backdrop, right?
Sure, yeah.
Wrong! Wrong! When you think of Vienna Lager, I'm telling you what you should be thinking of. You should be thinking of Napoleon. You should be thinking of the French Foreign Legion. You should be thinking of Cinco de Mayo and a political execution in Mexico.
Got a little cultural appropriation going on.
Well, you don't think that's...
No, there we go.
Okay,
all right,
there you go. Yes.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I feel good about
that. Did I just dispel all your notions of what a Vienna Lager is?
Yeah, well, it's a challenge. So let's keep going here.
Allow me to explain.
All right.
So, in the 1860s, in Mexico.
Here we're going back in time.
I know. That's how I know. There's a history to everything, as there should be.
Right.
How do you know where you are if you don't know where you've been?
Right.
1860s, there's a liberal government that has overpromised to its people.
What a surprise.
Yeah, well, that kind of goes that way.
Yeah.
You're like, elect me, everything will be better for everybody because...
But sooner or later, you run out of other people's money.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yes.
And so, in order to deal with this money crisis, Mexico decides to suspend its foreign debts for 2 years.
Good idea.
Well, this does not go over well with the Spanish, the French, and the English,
To whom they owe these debts.
They owe these debts, yes. And they say, we're coming to collect. Yeah. Well, when they come to collect...
And they're not coming to collect by saying,
nicely.
Would you please?
Not really.
No.
They come in, they bomb the harbor in Veracruz, in the Gulf of Mexico. Mm-hmm. The Spanish and the English realize that the French want more than just their money back. They want to make Mexico part of the French Empire. Okay. And they bail. And they just leave. They just leave the. They're like, all right, you're on your own.
Okay. Yeah.
So so the French invade. They make it as far as Puebla, which I believe is about halfway from the coast to Mexico City. Okay. There's a major battle there where the French are defeated.
All right.
And since this is Mexico's only victory against a foreign invasion.
Okay, small tangent here. Yeah. Okay, France is America's oldest ally. The French helped us during the American Revolution. Yes. But why do I get some sort of a thrill when I think of the French being defeated?
I know.
Isn't that weird?
I know it. I know. Somehow, I do kind of think of them as the bad guys.
Yeah, I know, but they're not.
No. They were instrumental in the French.
I know. In the American Revolution, they helped us, you know. But okay, all right. Sorry, go on.
No. So this is Mexico's one and only victory over a foreign invader.
One and only.
So they turn it into a national holiday that you may know as Cinco de Mayo. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Yes.
Yes. So that's where Cinco de Mayo comes from. Okay. But there's one other aspect to this battle. Okay. It's the French Foreign Legion, which had to start sometime, right?
Sure.
So it started a little bit before this, but this was the first real test. Okay. The full French army is there. Yeah. And the small contingent is just a company. It's 100 guys. Yeah. Most of whom who are incapacitated with illness.
Yeah, I always thought of the French Foreign Legion as like the misfits who couldn't go anywhere.
Yes, okay, it's a combination of Swiss and Poles and whatever. Right. But this is their first real test. They're given the job of guarding the supply line, and they come across a major battalion of Mexicans. So I think of this kind of as the Alamo. Because the Alamo is not celebrated as a victory. Right. It's just the valiant effort of men overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah. We don't look at the Alamo as this is we won. We look at it as look how awesome these guys were.
Yes. Yes. And so that's how in the history of the French Foreign Legion, they look back on this battle as this is when we established ourselves.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, this is their thing.
This is their thing. Right, it's like 65 guys on 500 guys, and they held out as long as they could. And
yeah, there's all kinds of stories like that in history. Like the guy who held Stanford Bridge for hours.
Yeah. He didn't win, but gosh, he deserves it.
What a guy. Yeah, right.
So, so they win. But the French don't go away.
Sure.
So they're still there, and eventually they make their way. Eventually they win. And they displace the Benito Juarez and his liberal government of overspenders. Right. Are kicked out. Benito Juarez goes into exile. I think he's hanging out in New Orleans. Okay. While the French take over. And now they're welcomed in by the conservatives and the aristocracy who had lost power when Benito Juarez came to power. Okay. So, I mean, it wasn't totally a conqueror's victory. There were plenty of Mexicans who were all on board with this idea of the French, and this is Napoleon III. This is it's either his nephew or his great nephew.
It's not like the Mexican beat Napoleon.
No,
but
never.
Here's another slightly weird thing. So if they're fighting against the French, when he went into exile, why did he go to New Orleans, which is a French town?
Good idea. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, they figured there would be some French spies there, stab him in the back.
Yeah, why didn't he go to South Carolina or something?
Yeah. Unless, of course, I'm just completely wrong about that. But somewhere in the back of my recesses of my historical mind, I'm thinking it was New Orleans.
New Orleans, okay. Maybe you just liked rum.
So when the French get there, they're like, we need to run this like a proper European monarchy.
Sure.
And so who else are you going to turn to?
Good grief.
The Habsburgs.
Those guys. they've been around for how long?
Since the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, they've been around.
You know,
forever.
so they've been controlling most of Europe off and on,
Yeah.
and you know, it's all very incestuous. The whole
It's all white privilege, and you know.
all the aristocracy, everybody's intermarrying. You know,
Yeah.
so the idea, so they say, so they get Maximillian,
Yeah.
who is, I think, the younger brother of Franz Joseph,
Okay.
whose son is the one that's assassinated and starts World War I.
Ah,
Okay.
what a family history.
So,
Yeah.
so they get Max, and if I just want to take a minute here,
Yeah.
just to talk about Max's facial hair.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, is that fantastic or what? I mean, you don't get
Okay.
that stuff every day.
So my reaction is not quite fantastic. I'll tell you the truth. I mean,
I love it.
so it's impressive.
Yes.
It's impressive. But this sort of like, if you're going to be a man, there's like a certain level of being a dandy
Oh,
that's
yeah.
acceptable. And then there's a certain level where we wonder who you really like.
Well, the aristocrats with their stockings and you know what I mean. There is clearly some dandy going on.
It goes a little ways.
And I'm sure he's got like a team of groomers.
Yeah.
You know, taking care of that thing. I mean, look at that thing.
That's a serious beard.
That
is serious.
Is
Now,
something else.
Yeah.
Now, so my sympathies with Max.
Yeah.
I like this guy
Okay.
because he
Not just because of the beard.
not right exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely because of the beard, but for other reasons.
But for other reasons also. Okay.
He does not want to come in as a conqueror. That is not his plan.
Mm-hmm.
He has been led to believe by all of the Mexican aristocrats,
Right.
conservatives, that this is what the Mexican people want. And he's like, well,
They've been longing for Hapsburgs ever since 1492.
you know how great, it's working out in Europe.
Sure. Yeah.
You might want some Habsburgs here.
Right. Exactly.
And I am your man.
What do we want more
And
than
I tell you,
Hapsburgs?
and in fact, he comes in and he does not, like the land reforms and things that were taking place. He's okay with that. I mean, he really wants to be loved by the people and is under the impression that they are.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
Not really.
that's not the case at all.
Okay.
There's immediate war. I mean, the war goes on. It takes a couple of years, and Juarez and his guys retake power.
Yeah.
And Max and his
How did they get down from New Orleans?
well, he saw his opportunity. I guess he rallied the troops.
He just heard about unrest down with this guy.
Right, yeah. So and
Snuck
you
his
know,
way down there. Yeah. Okay.
he was just tired of being in New Orleans.
Sure. Yeah. I
He's
mean,
like,
you
I
can
gotta
only eat
get-
so many beignets.
He says, "I gotta get my country back."
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I don't know about this part. All I knew, but I do know is that he retakes it, and the aristocracy of Europe says, "Look, he meant well. He and his lovely wife Carlotta. Can you just put them on a ship and send them home?"
Okay.
Well, I mean, you know, he's a Habsburg for
because
crying
he's a
out loud.
Habsburg, exactly. So he's part of the European royalty.
He really thought
But
that
yeah.
he was doing a good thing,
Yeah, he thought he had his ideas.
and they were executed instead. So.
Yeah. Well.
Well, you know, that's kind of what happens in revolutions. You know, it's not that
you read
uncommon.
too many stories about people not executing the opposition and the opposition coming back to get them. Juarez being a good example.
And sometimes you need to kill their kids too.
Yeah,
because, you know what I mean? The son's going to grow
it's
up,
rough.
and what is he going to do?
It's a
He's
rough
gonna-
world. It's a rough world. Yeah.
You know who they did not kill?
No.
The brewers.
Ooh.
The Viennese German brewers.
Well,
I'm trying to.
They had some
It
sense.
took me a while to bring it back
All
around.
right, finally, we get from 14 whatever up to
Yes,
brewers.
to
All right,
our
fine,
Vienna Lager.
Okay.
Yes, so they did not execute the brewers.
Yes.
They continued to brew this beer.
Yes.
In Europe, where this was a very popular beer,
Okay.
was overtaken by the Czech Pilsner, which
Okay.
is, you know, that's
Sure.
the beer, which is the beer of Europe.
I
Really,
love
it
Czech
is.
Pilsners. I
Fantastic.
do love Czech. Yeah.
And it kind of went out of favor
Mhm.
in Europe, but it continues in Mexico. So the Mexican beers, you know, they're all sort of copies of Corona,
Yeah.
except for Negro Modelo.
Right.
There's Modelo and Negro Modelo,
Right.
which is a very popular
I like it.
Vienna
by the way.
Lager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
And when I was last in Mexico, I found a brew pub.
Yeah.
and they had a Vienna Lager.
There you go.
It was fantastic. But, yes, do not think of Lederhosen in the Alps when you think of a Mexican
So
lager.
I have to throw in a little ecclesiastical story here. All right.
Why
so
not?
so it sounds to me, this reminds me of how the Irish saved Western civilization, because
Whoa!
Western civilization is under assault by the Vikings,
Yes.
and all these guys are wiping things out. They're destroying knowledge. They're burning libraries. They're killing monks. They're doing all this nasty stuff. And the one place where Western civilization is being faithfully transcribed is on the tops of these crazy monasteries in Ireland.
Because the ones in England were just sitting on the coast, right for takeover.
They just get killed, right? Yeah. So Lindisfarne and all those guys, they were just wiped out. So so here we have the same sort of analogy where this beer style,
Vienna Lager, the preservation of
the preservation of the style, it falls out of favor in Europe and dies, but is preserved over here in Mexico just in time for good American brewers to pick it up and say, we're going to...
that's a pretty nice
beer.
That's a good story. Let's continue
that. There we go.
So, thank you, Ireland.
Thank you, Ireland.
Thank you,
Mexico.
Thank you for not executing all of the German brewers.
Yes.
To bring us this fine beer that I think is fine. It's a Yingling. Does it remind you of Yingling at all?
It's sort of like Yingling. It is because
Yingling, better Yingling.
Yeah, it is better than Yingling, but it's a little bit darker.
Yeah.
And it's got that little bit of malty sweetness, so it's like that same kind of family of beers.
Well, there you have a nice beer and
somehow
an interesting
we got
history.
through all this Mexican history back to Vienna Lager. I think well done. Yeah. So there's another question I got.
Yeah.
Here. So since we're talking about this guy here with this fancy beard,
Maximillian. In Mexico, they call him Maximiliano.
Maximiliano. Okay, Maximiliano has got all this beard going on. You're losing a little bit of beard.
I did. Yes, I cleaned this up. I don't know where I'm going with this. I think I'm getting rid of the whole thing. However, Mrs. Pigweed said that I looked like Carranza.
Carranza.
But his first name is even better than that. It's Venustiano or something like that. Venustiano Carranza, who was a Mexican, he was a revolutionary and then later a president. 37th president, as I recall.
Okay.
And he had little round glasses, and I'm just wondering if this completes the picture at all.
There you go. Okay.
Now I got a ways to go. I mean, you see, he's all out here.
Yeah, he's got the handlebars, the Raleigh fingers.
So I'm not sure if I should just rock it all the way out full Carranza, or we'll see.
Yeah, well, we can't take advice from me. I've basically had the beard forever, so I've never done the
And you certainly never did the Maximiliano.
I've never done the Maximiliano.
There's a lot of grooming involved.
That's a lot. Yeah.
How about what is the French detective?
Ooh, Poirot. Hercule Poirot. Yeah. And I tell you, the new movie.
Yes.
Just rocks the facial hair.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Kenneth Branagh, and he has a special sleeping mask.
To keep the hair in place.
Yes, right. So it's not disturbed during the sleep.
So they did him so well. I mean, I'm not a big fan of reading those books, but in the movie they did him so well. He sees the world.
So you think that was a good characterization of the movie of the detective?
Well, I haven't read the books. I don't think I've read any of the books. But the thing that I liked about it was his explanation was for why he was such a great detective.
Yeah.
Was he can only see the world the way it ought to be. So if anything deviates from that, he notices it.
Okay.
You see?
Yes.
And that's what makes him a great detective. And that sort of explains his attention to detail and how everything has to be so perfect in his life. And I thought that was fantastic. But anyway, we're getting a little sidetracked.
We are, and I think that's all I have to say.
I think that's about all I got to say about that.
All right. Well, let's drink.
Let's drink.